Yarra thought love was simple. But here, in the village of Mbeka, love must prove itself through age-old rituals. Tonight, she will face not just her sister, but a tradition that threatens to break her heart. Will Yarra's love survive the trial? Or will tradition tear them apart?
In the heart of the small village of Mbeka, tradition was everything. Among the village's oldest and most unshakable customs was the ritual that every bride had to go through before her wedding, a trial to ensure her husband's fidelity and strength. No woman could marry without first allowing her elder sister to test her husband-to-be. This test was not a figurative one, but a literal night spent between the elder sister and the groom, ensuring the man was fit for marriage. Yarra, a young woman known for her grace and beauty, was set to marry her longtime love, Kayla. Kayla was a respected man in the village, admired for his strength, charm, and loyalty. He and Yarra had been together since their youth, and the entire village looked forward to their union. It was supposed to be the happiest time of Yarra's life, until she was reminded of the tradition. One afternoon, as Yarra sat with her mother by the fire, preparing for the wedding, her mother turned to her, her voice serious. "Yarra, my child, before you marry Kaylee, there is something you must remember. The trial must happen. It is the way of Mbeka." Yarra looked at her mother in confusion. "What trial, Mama?" Her mother sighed deeply. "Your sister, Awa, must sleep with Kayla before the marriage. She must ensure he is a strong and capable man." Yarra's heart dropped, a cold shiver running down her spine. "What do you mean? Why must Awa do this?" "It's our tradition," her mother explained. "Awa will test Kayla to ensure he is ready for marriage. It has been done for generations." Yarra felt nauseous. The thought of her elder sister lying with the man she loved, testing his manhood, was unbearable. She had heard of this tradition before, but never thought it would come for her. Later that night, unable to sleep, Yarra tossed and turned, her mind swirling with thoughts of Kaylee and Awa together. She couldn't understand how her sister could be part of something so intimate between her and her future husband. Desperate to stop it, she sought out Awa the next morning. She found her sister by the river collecting water. Awa, a beautiful woman with long flowing hair and a confident demeanor, greeted her with a smile. "Sister," Yarra began, her voice trembling, "Mama told me about the trial. Do you really intend to go through with it?" Awa chuckled softly. "Of course, Yarra. It's tradition. You know that." "But this is different," Yarra pleaded. "Keely is the man I love. How can you be with him, even if it's just for one night?" Awa's smile faded slightly, and she looked at her sister with an intensity Yarra hadn't seen before. "Keely is a fine man, Yarra. I've admired him for a long time. Maybe after the trial, he'll realize he prefers me." Yarra's stomach turned. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her own sister, whom she trusted, was not only willing but eager to take Kayla from her. Yarra rushed to Kayla that evening, tears in her eyes. She found him tending to his farm, his shirt soaked with sweat from the day's work. "Kale," she called out, her voice trembling, "Awa wants to test you, and she's been admiring you for some time. I was hoping she would refuse, but she's looking forward to it." Kayla looked at her, shocked. "What? That's not true. Why would she say that?" "She said maybe after the trial you'll prefer her," Yarra said, her voice shaking with emotion. Kayla pulled her close, wiping her tears. "Yarra, I love you and only you. I would never choose Awa over you. This tradition is outdated, and it's causing you pain. I don't want to be part of it." Despite Kaylee's reassurances, Yarra couldn't shake the fear that her sister's confidence and beauty might win him over. As the day of the trial grew closer, Yarra's anxiety deepened. She tried to distract herself with wedding preparations, but the thought of Awa alone with Kaylee consumed her. Finally, the dreaded day arrived. Awa, dressed in her finest robes, seemed almost gleeful as she prepared for the trial. Yarra watched from a distance, her heart heavy with dread. Inside the small hut where the trial would take place, Kayla sat nervously, his mind racing. He didn't want to go through with it, but the pressure from the village and from Yarra's family weighed on him. As Awa entered the hut, her eyes gleaming with anticipation, Kaylee stood up, his heart pounding. "This doesn't feel right, Awa," Kaylee said, his voice low. "I love Yarra. I don't want to hurt her." Awa stepped closer, her smile widening. "It's just tradition, Kaylee. You don't want to disrespect our customs, do you?" "I respect Yarra more than any tradition," Kaylee replied firmly. Meanwhile, outside the hut, Yarra could no longer stand idly by. The thought of what might happen inside was too much to bear. She ran toward the hut, her heart pounding in her chest, and burst through the door, her voice echoing through the small space. "Stop!" Yarra shouted, her voice shaking with emotion. "Awa, this isn't right. You can't use tradition to take what doesn't belong to you." Awa turned, her expression hardening. "Yarra, this is how it's done. You know the rules. Kaylee isn't yours until after the trial." "No," Yarra cried. "I didn't agree to this. Kaylee isn't some prize to be won. I love him, and he loves me." For a long moment, the room was silent. Then, for the first time, Awa's confident demeanor faltered. Her eyes dropped to the floor, her face softening. "You're right, Yarra," Awa finally said, her voice heavy with guilt. "I've always been the one who got the attention. I was always the confident one. But when I saw how happy you were with Kayla, I felt jealous." Yarra blinked, stunned by her sister's confession. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I thought if I could make Kaylee notice me, maybe I'd feel better about myself. But now I see that was wrong. I've been selfish." Awa walked over to Yarra and took her hands. "I'm sorry, Yarra. I won't go through with the trial. I'll tell Mama and the elders it's not happening." Relief flooded Yarra's chest as she nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you, Awa." The next morning, Awa and Yarra met with the village elders. Awa explained her decision, and while the elders were initially surprised, they agreed that perhaps it was time to rethink some of the village's traditions. In the end, Yarra and Kayla were married without the trial. The village began to slowly shift its views on certain customs, understanding that love, respect, and trust mattered more than outdated traditions. Yarra and Awa grew closer after the ordeal, their bond stronger than ever, and Kaylee, true to his word, remained by Yarra's side, devoted to her and her alone. Thank you for joining Jum's journey and experiencing the power of acceptance and resilience with us. If you found her story inspiring, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more captivating tales ahead. Until next time, farewell.